At 3:47 a.m. Moscow time, 121 Ukrainian drones struck the heart of Russia's capital.
Ukraine waited for the cloud cover to drop, then launched the swarm from 600 kilometers away. At 3:47 a.m. Moscow time, heavy fog clung to the steel and glass of Moscow City's financial district, masking the low hum of approaching rotors. Ukrainian FPV drones, each costing under $600, skimmed just 12 feet above the Moscow River, while long-range reconnaissance UAVs worth $110,000 each circled at 14,000 feet, coordinating the attack through encrypted data links. From the northeast approach corridor, 121 small attack drones surged forward through the December haze, while Russia's Panzer S-1 air defense systems, roughly $15 million per unit, struggled to acquire locks in the dense urban clutter. Within 38 seconds, the first wave struck the Evolution Tower's eastern glass curtain at the 39th floor, shattering windows across 4 levels. Flames erupted from office suites valued at over $18,000 per square meter. This was not a probe or a symbolic strike. It was algorithmic devastation, fast, coordinated, and brutally cost-effective. Before the next development is revealed, comment your location and stay with us. Don't look away until the final secret is revealed. Hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Thank you for watching. The moment the first impacts reverberated through Moscow City's towers, Russian air defense crews scrambled into action. From concealed positions less than 2.8 miles northeast near Kyiv, S-400 Triumph batteries worth approximately $500 million each rotated their phased array radars skyward, sweeping the cluttered airspace above the skyscraper cluster. Operators toggled between wide area search and precision tracking modes, attempting to isolate individual drone signatures from the chaos of commercial aircraft, construction cranes, and digital interference radiating from thousands of cellular towers. But the Ukrainian swarm had fractured into microgroups of 3 to 5 drones each, weaving between the Mercury City Tower, valued at $1 billion, and the Federation Tower complex worth $1.2 billion, exploiting radar dead zones created by the buildings themselves. Each cluster moved independently, guided by onboard AI targeting algorithms that prioritized high-value glass facades and rooftop mechanical systems. At 3:49 a.m., a Panzer S-1 system stationed on the roof of a government complex 1.6 miles south locked onto a cluster of 6 drones approaching the Okeo Tower's southern face. The crew fired a 50-76 missile costing roughly $1.2 million, the white contrail cutting through the fog. The missile detonated, shredding 2 Ukrainian drones mid-flight and scattering debris across the Moskva embankment below. Cheers erupted in the command post, but the celebration was premature. 3 surviving drones from that cluster dove sharply, dropping to rooftop level and disappearing into the forest of ventilation stacks and satellite dishes crowning the tower. Seconds later, they struck the building's climate control systems, triggering secondary explosions that sent black smoke billowing into the early morning sky. Russian gunners realized with sickening clarity that they were spending millions per intercept against drones worth less than a high-end laptop, and the math was collapsing in Ukraine's favor. As the Panzer crews reloaded, the main swarm pressed deeper into Moscow City's core. Drones slammed into the IQ Quarter residential complex, the Imperia Tower's mid-level restaurant zones, and the City of Capital's twin spires. Glass rained onto the frozen plaza below as sirens wailed across the district. Fire suppression systems activated automatically, flooding damaged floors with foam and water, but the cascading failures were outpacing Moscow's emergency response. The Ukrainian operators, watching through thermal feeds from reconnaissance drones still circling at altitude, adjusted targeting priorities in real time, directing fresh waves towards structures where Russian firefighting teams had not yet arrived. How are you feeling today? Let us know so we can support each other. Comment 4 if you're okay, 5 if you're feeling strong, 6 if you'd like to share something. At 3:52 a.m., the Ukrainian command executed Phase 2. From positions beyond visual range, a pair of Shahed 136 loitering munitions, each valued at approximately $20,000, banked sharply and descended toward the Moscow City district from the southwest. These larger, slower drones carried warheads 5 times heavier than the FPV swarm, designed not for precision glass breaking, but for structural intimidation. Russian radar operators detected the the inbound threats immediately, their larger signatures impossible to miss. Two S-400 interceptors, costing an estimated $1.3 million each, launched within seconds, their rocket motors painting white streaks across the pre-dawn darkness. Both Shahrids were vaporized at 8,000 feet, their explosions briefly illuminating the fog layer like distant lightning. But the sacrifice had served its purpose. Every Russian air defense battery in the sector had pivoted southwest to engage the Shaheds, radar dishes swinging away from the low-altitude FPV swarm still buzzing through the skyscraper canyons. In that brief window of distraction, 19 additional Ukrainian drones surged through undefended approach corridors, striking the Naberezhnaya Tower's east facade and the AFI Mall complex adjacent to the financial district. The explosions triggered cascade failures in fiber optic trunk lines running beneath the plaza, severing communications between multiple government ministries housed in the surrounding buildings. Across the Moscow City district, the battle had devolved into chaos. Russian mobile air defense teams raced through narrow service roads, deploying portable Verba shoulder-fired missiles worth $50,000 each to engage low-flying drones. Soldiers fired bursts from PKM machine guns and AK-12 rifles at distant silhouettes, their tracers arcing wildly into the fog. A few drones fell, their plastic frames disintegrating under the hail of bullets. But for every drone destroyed, two more slipped through, their operators adjusting flight paths based on real-time threat analysis fed from reconnaissance platforms still orbiting beyond missile range. By 3:58 a.m., Russian commanders faced a grim reality. Their layered air defense network, designed to repel NATO aircraft and cruise missiles, was hemorrhaging resources against an enemy that cost less to deploy than a single interceptor missile. The S-400 systems had expended 11 missiles worth over $14 million combined. Panzer batteries had burned through dozens of short-range interceptors and thousands of 30mm cannon rounds, yet the Ukrainian drones kept coming, relentless and adaptive, exploiting every gap in coverage with machine precision. If this video made you stop and think, tap like and tell us how you feel. Comment 4 for Ukraine, 5 for peace, or 6 if you disagree with this coverage. The turning point came at 4:02 a.m. when Ukrainian reconnaissance operators spotted a critical vulnerability. High above Moscow City, thermal imaging drones captured the heat signature of a Pantsir S-1 system repositioning along the Presnenskaya embankment, its crew frantically reloading missile tubes after exhausting their ready ammunition. The vehicle's radar dish was offline, the system temporarily blind during the reload cycle. Within 18 seconds, Ukrainian command redirected 7 FPV drones toward the exposed vehicle. The small machines dove from 3 different angles, their combined assault overwhelming the Pantsir's close-in gun defenses. 3 drones detonated against the vehicle's missile racks, triggering a catastrophic secondary explosion that ripped the $15 million system apart and killed its 4-man crew instantly. The fireball lit up the embankment, visible from kilometers away. That single loss shattered Russian morale. Other Pantsir crews, watching their comrades die in real time through data link feeds, began to retreat from exposed positions, pulling back behind hardened structures and abandoning their forward defensive perimeter. The withdrawal created a temporary air defense gap extending nearly half a mile across the southern approaches to Moscow City. Ukrainian drones poured through the opening like water through a broken dam, striking previously untouched structures with methodical precision. The Neva Tower's residential complex took 6 hits. The Eurasia Tower's upper observation deck was engulfed in flames. The capital city complex's parking structure collapsed after drones targeted support columns on the 3rd sub-level. Moscow's emergency services were overwhelmed. Fire brigades from across the city converged on the district, but narrow access roads and panicked civilian evacuations created gridlock. Ambulances struggled to reach casualties trapped in damaged buildings. Power fluctuated across the district as electrical substations automatically disconnected damaged circuits to prevent larger grid failures. By 4:11 a.m., portions of Moscow City sat in darkness, emergency lighting casting eerie red glows through shattered windows and smoke-filled lobbies. Yet the Ukrainian operators pressed forward with cold efficiency. Long-range reconnaissance drones identified secondary targets beyond the initial strike zone, communication relay stations, backup power generators, and municipal water pumping facilities that service the skyscraper district. Small clusters of drones peeled away from the main swarm, striking these infrastructure nodes with surgical accuracy. Each hit compounded the cascading repeating failures, ensuring that even after the attack ended, Moscow City's recovery would be measured in weeks, not days. If you watched the previous video, you already know how Ukraine coordinated the initial approach. This is where the algorithmic precision truly begins. At 4:18 a.m., the Ukrainian swarm executed its final phase. The remaining 34 operational drones, having exhausted their primary target lists, turned toward a single objective: the Moscow City Administrative Complex housing emergency coordination centers for the district's security response. Russian defenders, now aware of the shift in Ukrainian targeting priorities, concentrated all remaining firepower around the building. A Panzer battery on the roof fired continuously, its twin 30mm cannons spitting 2,500 rounds per minute into the fog. Soldiers with Verba missiles established overlapping kill zones. A K-52 attack helicopter, scrambled from Kubinka Air Base 35 miles west, arrived overhead and began engaging drones with unguided rockets worth $18,000 each. But the Ukrainian drones had numbers and momentum. They swarmed the administrative complex from 6 simultaneous approach vectors, overwhelming the defenders through sheer volume. Panzer rounds tore through 3 drones, their shattered components tumbling to the street below. The K-52 destroyed 4 more with rocket salvos that cratered the plaza and set parked vehicles ablaze. Verba missiles claimed another 2, yet 25 drones broke through, slamming into the administrative complex's glass atrium, conference facilities, and server rooms. The building's structural integrity held, but its operational capability collapsed. Communication systems went dark, emergency coordination screens flickered and died. Backup generators struck by drone fragments failed to activate. Moscow's command structure for defending the financial district had been decapitated. By 4:26 a.m., the last Ukrainian drone fell from the sky, shot down by small arms fire over the Bagration Bridge. The attack had lasted 39 minutes from first impact to final drone neutralization. In its wake, Moscow City sat crippled and burning. When the final drone's hum faded over the Moskva River and dawn began to break through the smoke, silence settled over Moscow City's shattered towers like a shroud. Emergency lights blinked weakly through cracked facades. Sirens echoed off steel and concrete, their wails swallowed by the hiss of fire suppression systems and the groan of damaged structure settling. On the frozen plaza below the Federation Tower, a single Moscow firefighter stood motionless, staring upward at the blackened gash carved across 12 floors of Russia's tallest building. His radio crackled with damage reports from across the district, but he didn't respond. Above him, a Mi-8 helicopter silhouetted against the brightening sky circled slowly, its thermal camera recording the devastation for assessment teams that would work for weeks to catalog the losses. The strategic calculus was undeniable. Ukraine had deployed 121 drones worth approximately $70,600 in total manufacturing costs, plus reconnaissance platforms valued at $220,000, for a combined operational expenditure under $300,000. Russia had expended over $14 million in S-400 interceptors, millions more in Panzer munitions and helicopter sorties, and lost a $15 million air defense system outright. But the true cost transcended hardware. Moscow City housed Russia's financial nerve center, its gleaming towers symbols of post-Soviet resurgence and economic power. The district's combined real estate value exceeded $12 billion, with individual structures like the Federation Tower and Mercury City Tower representing investments exceeding $1 billion each. Damage assessments would eventually confirm $131 billion in structural losses, shattered windows, fire damage, compromised mechanical systems, and obliterated infrastructure. Yet beneath the accounting, a deeper message burned. Ukraine had reached into the heart of Moscow, not with ballistic missiles or strategic bombers, but with swarms of cheap adaptive machines that modern air defense architecture could not efficiently counter. The attack proved that Russia's layered defense networks, designed to repel Cold War threats, were catastrophically vulnerable to distributed low-cost platforms operating with algorithmic coordination. Every $1.3 million interceptor fired at a $600 drone represented a strategic defeat measured not in explosions but in unsustainable economics. If you think this phase was decisive, stay with us. The next video reveals how Moscow's response evolved and what Ukraine learned from the aftermath. As Moscow's recovery teams began the grim work of securing unstable structures and evacuating thousands of displaced residents, Ukrainian analysts were already dissecting the operation's success, cataloging Russian response times, defense gaps, and targeting priorities for future strikes. The swarm had demonstrated a template, a new paradigm where wars could be waged not with billion-dollar platforms, but with thousands of expendable machines guided by cold algorithmic logic. The sun rose fully over Moscow City, its light reflecting off a million fragments of shattered glass scattered across the frozen plaza. In that reflection lay a truth both sides now understood. Modern warfare had fundamentally shifted, and the side that adapted fastest to asymmetric economics would determine the conflict's outcome. Ukraine had struck not just Moscow's towers, but the foundation of Russia's defensive confidence. The message was clear, undeniable, and written in smoke across the capital's skyline. War no longer belonged to the nation with the most expensive weapons. It belonged to the side willing to innovate faster than their enemy could respond.